So now let's move from the classic portal into the new portal. And to do that, if you're logged onto the classic portal, they're going to prompt you a whole bunch to kind of check out the new portals. Or you can come over here in the menu and check it out from here. So we'll switch to the new portal. And right away, you're going to see that this is a pretty drastic change. The basics are still kind of the same. We've got objects that we can create. We've got a menu of objects down the left-hand side. Over here on the right, we can access our settings, such as our bill, for example. And in the middle, our list has been replaced with a series of tiles. And tiles can be customized, and you kind of change the layout of this. We can add tiles, remove tiles. There's an edit dashboard option. We can, for example, call this my subscription. And then we can, move some things around. For example, I don't want this help and support tile. I don't want the marketplace tile. I'm going to move the all resources just kind of down right here. And we can kind of do this all day long and customize, that initial dashboard view to be whatever you want it to be. Creating objects is straightforward as well. So let's go in and create, do what we did in the previous portal, which is create a basic virtual machine. But let's do this from the newer portal. And so to do that, we're just going to click New. And what that's going to bring up are what are called blades. And the whole notion of the new portal is that it's based around this idea of blades. Blades represent properties and configurations. And so we're going to go Virtual Machines. And we're just going to do a Windows Server 2012 R2 Data Center Virtual Machine. Now, we're not going to get into this in depth now, but the new portal uses a newer deployment model called a Resource Manager deployment model. And that's based around the notion of what are called resource groups. So, in addition to resource groups, also templates. In later modules, we're going to learn about how we manage resource groups and how we manage templates. So this is going to be a basic VM. I'm going to call this VM1. Storage type is going to be solid state, username, and a password. The subscription, and then the resource group. The resource group represents just a group of objects that are related that we kind of manage as a unit. Now we'll learn more about this later on. Create a new resource group. Call this one VMs, and then a location. So that's all our settings. And we're now ready to go ahead and create the virtual machine. So we'll click OK. Move on to our next set of configurations, which is going to be the size. And so this will pick the available sizes based on the region that I've selected. We'll go with a DS2 size, gives us a pricing estimate. And then any optional features we want. And so again, we're not going to get into all the different features in depth for now, but you can see it just kind of has some basic default network settings, some basic high availability settings, and then we're going to enable diagnostics. And so diagnostics is going to allow us to, get some information on the virtual machine on how it's performing. Click OK. And then finally, it's going to do a validation, make sure that it can actually do everything we've asked it to. We click OK, and it begins the process of deploying the virtual machine. And so you can see it creates a tile for the deployment on the home page. We've got a little alerts area up here. We can click to see that the deployment has started. And we can now kind of wait for this deployment to finish. We'll go ahead and click on the deployment tile. And we can kind of look in here and watch and see what's happening. If I scroll all the way to the bottom, we can refresh this view and you'll see that it's beginning to create all the objects that Azure requires to actually build out this new virtual machine. So we'll let this run and just come back and take a quick look at it when it's done and kind of see how the new portal lets us go in and configure this virtual machine. So the deployment has completed and we've been redirected to a settings blade for this particular virtual machine. So it shows us some basic information about the virtual machine, some actions we can take, such as restarting it, stopping it, deleting it, or connecting to the operating system, and gives us a shortcut to look at all the settings in a dedicated settings blade. And so this is how we navigate through this new portal. If we want to find things, we find the appropriate blade. We can search for settings. For example, address interfaces, I'm looking for TCP/IP properties. And here we can find the virtual machine's IP information. We can close a blade, we can maximize a blade, or restore it to its original size. If we close all our blades, we're redirected back to our home page. Right? So where we have our initial dashboard, and we've now got a new tile for that virtual machine. We can go ahead and open that tile to get back to our properties page. Or if we don't want that tile, we can actually just remove the tile entirely. Over here on the right now, I can look at all resources to see everything that's running in my subscriptions. You can see that there's quite a number of objects right now. Or for the newer objects I've deployed, I can look at my resource group view to see which resource groups I actually have. And then within each resource group, look at the objects that make up that particular group. Here's my virtual machine 1 resource group, and here's all the objects that are contained within it. Deleting objects from the new portal is also pretty straightforward. For example, if I want to delete all these objects, I can just delete the resource group. So I'll come up here in the resource groups blade, click delete. Now, because deleting a resource group deletes a lot of things, they want you to confirm just by typing the name, and it'll now go in, delete all those objects, effectively cleaning up and removing everything I just did. So that's a basic tour through the new Azure portal.